Welcome to Pensascup 2023, hosted by Pensasmies and myself. I will put links to everyone's channels in the description, so you guys can check those out if you want. The 16-player tournament is played in HOT, using drafted teams out of base cards. There is 310 euros on the line, split like so, amongst the top 5 in the tournament. As I said, teams are drafted from base cards in HOT, and there are 2 phases of the draft, the team draft and then the player draft. First, all the 16 of us got to pick a team, which we are kind of representing. From that team, we're allowed to use any players they have. After that, there is a player drafting stage with 8 rounds to add players to our chosen team. The draft operates like a snake draft, so to make things more even, the person choosing their team first will get to choose their first player last. So that like balances it out a little bit. The drafting order was randomized on a stream on the Twitch channel of Pensasmies. And for one, who's it gonna be? Number 2 is...
Estor.
So... that means... yeah, he got the first overall pick. I got the pick number 15. Anywhere from like 9 to 15 is pretty bad. Which, in my books, is probably the worst possible pick. But at the same time, I do get the second overall pick in the player draft, so it's not that bad. But yeah, here is the full drafting order for the team and player draft, and there is also the teams each player went for. You can also see the players of this tournament right there on the screen now. For me, I had prepared a list of the top 15 teams in my opinion, and I was pretty happy to be able to pick my 13th highest team on that list, which was the Vancouver Canucks. We'll dive into more detail about my team and the draft I had later, but I will quickly show you everyone else's team first. Before going into the teams of the other players though, here is the groups that were also randomized. When we randomized these groups, everyone was saying that group A is like ridiculously crazy good, and it is maybe true that in my books, Ibe and Pate are probably the top 2 favorites in this tournament, and then there's me also in that group, so I guess like the high end of that group is pretty stacked. There's 8 players in each group, and 3 of them will directly make the playoffs, and then the 4th and 5th player will be playing for the last 2 playoff spots. In the group stage, everyone plays each other twice, so there is a total of 14 games to be played. In the group stage, 2 points for a win, 1 point for an OT loss, but we did decide that the first tiebreaker would be regulation wins, so that the value of winning in regulation is higher than winning in overtime. So yeah, that's pretty much how the tournament operates. We will now dive into the teams of the players. So here is the team of Pensasmies, who got the first overall pick. In the draft, he got the Edmonton Oilers. And the way the tournament is formatted, I really think the best teams are the ones with the best high-end players. As from the player draft, each player will receive multiple 80 plus overall cards. So it really comes down to the highest overalls on your team, as every team will have the depth in the 3rd or 4th line. So Pensasmies, naturally, I think he has the best team on paper because he has Draisaitl and McDavid. But at the same time, maybe his defense is a little weak, goaltending definitely a little weak. But as I said, the high-end cards probably do make a huge difference, so it is still a really good team in my opinion. Moving on to the next team, which is Estor's team. He went for the Carolina Hurricanes, which definitely isn't a bad team. They have a lot of like solid players, but they do lack a little bit up front, as their highest overall forward is 83. It's not great, but at the same time, he was able to get Hughes, Giroux, Cousins, guys like that from the draft. So I think it's a solid roster. There isn't many weaknesses for sure. Third is the team Peaky. He got the Avs, which I think is the second best team on paper. Maybe the centers aren't that great. They're a bit slow for my liking. It's definitely a good team, but and also the games are played peer to peer, not on servers, so it does make the gameplay a bit slower overall. So maybe these bigger guys are actually the meta there. But we'll have to see in that. I still do prefer the Edmonton team that Pensas has. Fourth is Donny's team, Tampa Bay Lightning. It's overall just a really solid lineup in my opinion. Next up, Metro Boomin. He took the New York Rangers with the fifth pick, which was kind of surprising to me, as I don't think their high end players are that great in game, but they do have multiple 83 plus players. They have Panarin, Zibanejad, Kreider, Fox, Shesterkin. So I guess you can't really go wrong with that. Sixth is the team of Artusio. He took the Boston Bruins here. I feel like Boston is one of those teams that you can't go wrong with. I really like Ullmark as a goaltender as well. One thing to say, maybe the defense is a little bit weak compared to other teams. Seventh team is Aki's team. He went for the Florida Panthers, which in my books wasn't a great option. But they do have Barkov and Kachak, so that's something. The problem with these guys is just they are really slow in game. But he did manage to cover for that in the player draft. He got multiple really fast players. Next up, Bustrom with the Toronto Maple Leafs. He took so many big guys in the player draft. Kachuk, Lee, Thompson. He was able to get all those guys and Klingberg on defense. He has so much size. Combine those guys with Matthews, Tavares even. He's not small at all. So this is really gonna be a tough team to play against. And they also have the top end talent here with the high overalls. Next up is Greek Freak with the Washington Capitals. I definitely think Caps are one of the better teams. I think in my papers it was the sixth best team. So a really good pickup for him. Next up, Giga Axe with the Pens. Better teams in my opinion. Was seventh on my list. And he was also able to get Ottinger in net, which I think is one of the better goalies in the draft. And Hamilton is one of the best defensemen in the draft. So I feel like he really did a good job in the player drafting stage. Next is Kibe's team. He took the Vegas Golden Knights, which was a bit of a mistake in my opinion. He also said that after the draft that he didn't really realize how bad they are in game actually. Their only really good player is Eichel, but after that it's really rough. He did get himself Seagrass in the player draft, which is okay, and Lehner is a good goalie, so there's that. Here's the team of Niilo. He went for the Calgary Flames, and I think this is just overall a really solid lineup. A lot of size on defense. Markstrom, maybe the best goalie in the game this year. Picking 13th was Jepuks. He went for the Winnipeg Jets, which I think was one of the two best teams remaining at that point. They have a good goalie, they have good size on forwards, and he was also able to get high picks in the player draft, so he picked up Kane from that. One pick before mine is Potte, 14th pick. He went with the Nashville Predators, which was also gonna be my pick if he hadn't picked it. And because he was picking so late, he also got to add Larkin from the player draft, which is a really amazing card. He took a lot of women as well. Jenner, Hiirikoski, Keller, Fillier as well. But I mean, he knows what he's doing. He knocked me out of the GWC earlier this year, so I won't comment on this team more than that. This is my team, but I'll dive deeper into this one a bit later. And then last pick in the draft was Rouse. He went with the St. Louis Blues, which I hadn't really recognized as an option before the draft, but looking at it, it's a really good team actually. With Tarasenko, O'Reilly, then Kairu. O'Reilly is great because of the face-offs, And then the wingers have a lot of speed. And from the player craft, he also got himself Pulan, which is definitely a really great center in the game. Up there with the guys like Matthews, McDavid, Draisaitl, those guys. For him picking last in the team draft, he did get himself a really good roster. And now for my team, I got the Vancouver Canucks with the 15th pick. Problem with the team is the lack of real star players. The highest overall skater on the Vancouver Canucks is 83 overall. From the player draft, I think I have the best synergy combo out of anyone in the tournament, as Fly the Zone and Heart and Soul are both extremely useful in this tournament. I got the second pick in the player draft, and I was able to get this Barzal card, which is one of the fastest for the whole tournament. 92 speed is amazing. Other than that, I think my forwards are really bad, especially on the first line. Horvat is only there for the face-offs of 87, which is really good, but other than that, this card is really bad. Same goes for Pettersson, that I feel like probably every single person has a better right wing for their first line. At the cost of my first line, I feel like my second and third lines are pretty solid. I really like my third line actually. Atkinson has 89 speed with the Fly the Zone synergy active, and Carpenter has 87 face-offs, just like Horvat, with the Heart and Soul active. I don't really want to use Carpenter on the first line, because then I feel like my first line would lack so much in size. Kempe was a really good pickup in my opinion from, I think it was the last round, or maybe the 7th round of the player draft. He just went completely under the radar for everyone. He has a lot of size, wheels, and 85 speed. He was probably my best pickup from the draft in terms of like how late he went. Going over the defense next, the Canucks, they're one of the biggest reasons, no pun intended, to pick the Canucks was Tyler Myers. Look at his speed. It is 86. It is 86. That is ridiculously fast for being over 2 meters tall. I can pair him with Quinn Hughes. So, like, it's pretty much the perfect, like, combo for the first defensive pair. Obviously, they aren't the highest overall cards. People have better, like, defensive cards than this. But for their overall, these two are amazing in game. I also had to put the captaincy on Myers. OEL is always a solid option, so he's on the second line. And on the third, we have Pullman and Brodin. I did kind of mess up in the draft. I was thinking I already had two right-handed defensemen, but I only had like Myers that I was going to play. And I realized that in the final round of the draft, and at that point, it was too late to save it, so I had to go with Pullman. I drafted one defenseman too little. That's why Pullman is here. But, I mean, he's pretty big, so he'll probably not be the reason I lose games. Let's say that. The highest rated card on this team is actually in the net with Demko, 85 overall. And I also have Price for the Heart and Soul synergy. And if Demko starts to suck, I can just always go back to Price. But yeah, that's pretty much the tournament explained. I haven't started any games yet. I will probably today, as of recording. Not sure if I'm going to be able to post this video today or is it going to go up later, but I will put links in the description to all the Twitch channels of the players in the tournament so that you can follow them. So when they go live, you can watch all the games live. I will also be posting videos about the game after the group stage and then for the playoffs, hopefully, if I make it there.